Hey, Kyle Querec here, and today we have a great episode. He is a musician, a performer, and some people come out of the womb as an entertainer. They are rare, they are here. He is Nick Bomleny, and it's today here on Music Minded. Come now. All right, Nick, question number one. Can you take us back to a place, a moment? Was it a person, a band? When did music hit you? Could you even take us back to that specific moment?
Absolutely. I do remember like getting a toy guitar when I was a child and little toy instruments and stuff. And one time I got a toy drum set, like one of those little mini kits. It's like the 70s, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember taking it apart and was really sad because I couldn't figure out how to put it back together, and they had to get rid of it. But so then I was beating on pots and pans and boxes. My dad had a banjo, I think once, and then I tried to work on that. I started taking piano when I was 7. So
can you take us back to the moment where you decided or just fell upon you that you just have to do this, you have to pursue this, for your life endeavor? Was there a moment where you just said, I want to be a professional musician?
sure, it was definitely not as a solo piano player doing recitals. That scared the heck out of me. It was probably around the age of MTV when it first came on, and really spent a lot of time going to concerts at a young age, probably like 12, 13 years old. Stopped taking classical piano lessons and got a guitar, and thought rock and roll band would be a lot of fun, and really my passion and desire at that point.
Was that the early 80s is my guess, like very early 80s maybe?
Sure, yeah, 80, 81.
When was the moment that you had your first great gig where you said, I'm doing it? I can't, like, one of my favorite Billy Joel lyrics is, they sit at the bar and put bread in my jar and say, man, what are you doing here? And he always said that the favorite moment for him was before anyone even knew him. I think before he even had a contract, he just played a gig for $80 and was just floored that he can make money and have a great time. Was there a moment where you felt like, I'm really doing this, regardless of if it was playing a stadium or a recording studio, just something that was important to you?
Yeah, I would probably say that moment was in my hometown, playing in the auditorium. It was a small town, and we had a basement garage band, and we would play, maybe a party here and there, maybe a school function, house party, that type of stuff. There was something at the auditorium, and I got to perform on that stage with my bandmates, and that felt like a real show. It felt like, the large stage, the lights, the sound, and still 80s, but that was probably the moment where I was like not nervous to be on stage to the point to where I could see myself doing that long term.
Give me a hell gig. And you've had a ton of gigs, so there has to be a few just, just one, no, not throwing anyone under the bus, but just, the sound man shows up hammered, the player's girlfriend, just, moved to Ecuador and eloped with some other guy, something.
Yeah, I've had a few over the years. Definitely. There's nothing like, in general, there's nothing like setting up and running late and running behind and setting up and just going right into it with zero sound check. But that's not the hell gig. The hell gig was actually kind of recent. We were on a very large stage, very large audience, and we're using in-ears, and we do sound check, and everything was fine. For the amount of time we had, it was with some other bands, so we had minimal time for production and line check and everything. So we go to sound check. Some other bands perform. We come back and perform, and they hand us the ear packs. It was like a big venue, so we put in the ears, and it's just staticky. It's a lot of noise, and like this isn't right. This is not what it should sound like. But we're off the side to the stage. We're on the opposite end of like the transmitters and the antennas. So they take the ear packs back and they change the channels and they hand it back to us and they said it should be fine now. When you go out on stage, it should pick up. And this is a very big like venue. It might be fine during sound check, but then you go live and sometimes you get interference. You know, you get a lot of cell phones, you get a lot of stuff that happens in ballrooms, that happens in venues all the time. But in this situation, and right before we went on, I thought to myself, we need to have the full mix in the side fills. We need to have something in the floor monitor, and just as a fail safe, just in case, you know, because this just didn't seem right. And then we start the show and we have like an intro playing, and then we all come in together after the intro, and I had nothing in my ears, zero, nada.
But what does the future hold for music, technologically, culturally, musically? For lack
that's a good question. What does the future hold? I think music is just part of people. I don't think it's ever going to go away. It just continues to evolve, just like we do as people, and just like we do in technology. You know, if you were to ask that question, you know, in the 1800s to classical composers and stuff like that, they would, you know, they would have no concept of what we do and what we deal with.
That's a great point. No one's ever said that. That's a great point, Nick. Wow.
So, you know, like, it's hard for me to say. I think music will continue on, and it will be an amazing journey, just like it has been in my lifetime. And, you know, I know a lot of people might say things about the industry, and it's not the same as it was when we grew up. But again, it's not the same as it was before radio. It's not the same as it was before television. It's not the same as it was before digital downloads and all that stuff. Absolutely. And the fact that people now have the technology to either on their own create and share their content, or with other people create and share their content, is amazing. I wish they had the technology that we have now when I was, you know, a teenager and in the 80s and all that stuff. Imagine the stuff that, you know, would have come out of us.
If you were just sitting there in a cafe and you saw your 22-year-old you walking down the street and went, oh, hold on a second. What would you just, you had 1 minute to say to that kid something. He's like ready to go to his next gig. What would you say to him?
I would say travel the world. Don't buy anything. Live small. Go experience life and meet people, because that's ultimately what it's all about. And, you know, keep going, keep doing what you're doing, because there's no right or wrong. There's no, this is good and this is bad. And that's the thing that I think that I focused on too much at that time was, am I good enough? Am I, you know, talented enough? You know, is what I want to do the right thing? And there is no right answer to that. It's the journey. And, you know, the journey is travel, experiences, not stuff. So, you know,
get after it. What are your 3 favorite albums? If you're alone, you know, on the island, you want 3 albums, but what are your 3 favorite artists, whether they're frontmen, bands?
If you had to be like of all time or stuff that really made an impact, I would say Todd Rundgren as an artist, and the album Healing. It's also a close between acapella, because acapella was all his voice, and it's a work of art.
Mind-blowing. Yeah, it's really, well, how it doesn't have more attention as up there with like Herbie Hancock, you know, like guys that have had seminal 1 albums and have been great artists. Do you know what I mean? Like Saturday Night Fever. How it's not known by everybody is crazy.
Exactly.
It's incredible. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
So Healing for the message and you know, the words and the spiritual aspect to it all. But you know, tied with that would be acapella with Todd. The second artist and album, again, I think it would be Rush, and probably Moving Pictures.
Yeah, man.
Just overall musically, and getting to see them as many times as I had since maybe the early 80s until the last tour. I took my son to his first concert ever when he was 10, and that was Rush, and we got to see the final tour again. So artistically and musically, a big impact on my life. A third one is like I'm kind of with you. It's like really hard to pinpoint.
It's impossible.
Any one album. But what comes to mind right away to me is Van Halen, probably Fair Warning.
Oh, look at you going dark.
Diver Down was the first Van Halen album I ever got, and I got to see that tour. I got to see them live in Diver Down. But I think Fair Warning was an incredible work of capture of time of where they were and as a band, and how they obviously influenced a lot of people. But those are my three, I think. Bands,
very, very eclectic. And it's funny because Fair Warning, and personally, I think Mean Streets, once that groove comes in, that to me is the epitome of Van Halen. It's like no one's going on after them. After that song, no one's going on. And the other little story for me, the first time I heard Van Halen or knew who they were, I was walking home like on a Saturday from somewhere, and I heard little guitars. And I remember thinking to myself, I wonder who that keyboard player is. It's the first thing I thought. I thought, who's that keyboard player? And then I find out it's a guitar, and it's this guy, Eddie Van Halen. And then, here we go. So question number 8, and I'm going to say 3 things, and you just pick one of them, like The Price is Right. So 3 doors here: food, sports, or travel.
Travel.
Yeah, I knew it. Okay. You're going to be in the best band of your life. I'm sure it's the band you're with right now. You're going to be playing exactly what you want. You're going to be playing any venues you want, but I don't want you to pick the locations because of a specific venue. Do you know what I mean? I want you to pick the locations. It could be any venue, but what are the 3 places in the world that you want to go do a gig? Best case scenario, the sound's going to be great. In-ears are going to be perfect.
Yeah. I would say Montenegro.
Where is that?
The Eastern Mediterranean.
Okay.
East of Greece. You got Greece on one side and you got Croatia, Montenegro on the other. Montenegro is just one of the most amazing things. Places, the things I've seen of that place are tremendous. The next would be one of my favorite places I've ever been in my life, and that's Stockholm, Sweden.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Stockholm, Sweden is great. And I'm Swedish on my mother's side, so that has something to do with it. I would say the other one might be London.
All right.
And I'm trying to work on a UK tour next year and try to get to London.
Number 9.
When I was putting up some little links, I said there are very few people that are born front men, or just people that just have the swag and the charisma. And I'm not just blowing smoke, bro. You know this. You're that guy. Like if you're going to a gig, you're playing some rock tunes, you're playing some jazz tunes, whatever, but you need someone to kind of head up the show, make sure everyone's prepared, everyone's feeling good about themselves, and everyone's sounding good. You're that guy. I mean, you feel good, going to battle on stage with you. It's just, I think it's a very real thing. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. And I'm very honored that you asked me to be on this awesome show that you have on your channel. Things shut down in March. We were on a cruise ship, January, February, March, things shut down. And all of a sudden we had some time. So we didn't waste any time. We got together, once things were safe and everything was fine. And started learning Cure songs. A year later, we did our first Cure show with Love Song. And over the next year, we did a lot of Switch stuff, and we did a lot of, corporate shows. A little bit of those started coming back in end of 21, into 22. But a year after we did our first show, we did our 12th show, and our 12th show was at House of Blues. Over Halloween, we did 4 shows in 48 hours in 4 different cities.
Come on.
Over 500 miles. Yeah. We were in Tampa, Jacksonville, Daytona, and then Orlando in 48 hours from 7 p.m. on a Friday to 6:30 p.m. on a Sunday. I
can't thank you enough for joining us. I know your bands are phenomenal. I'll have links below for all your stuff. Nick Bomleny, you're the man. You're a rare talent. And thanks so much for joining us, bro.
Thank you.
All right, man.
See you later.
All right. What a great episode. And this is from someone who has played in tons of bands, successful bands, great bands all around the country. He is Nick Bomleny. What a treat that he was with us today from the band Switch. Please look him up, look at some of the links and all the great stuff that he's done. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kyle Querec, and you've been watching Music Minded.